Hello friends, welcome back. This is Angular Developer Series. We're building e-commerce application with Angular. This is episode 15 and in this video I'm going to show you how you can use the resolver function to prefetch the data before any routes get activated, and also we will implement the auto spinner across our application in one single place. Alright, this video will be interesting. So without delay, come let's get started. Alright, let's take a look at the demo. This is the application and I will show you what's going on here. From the API side, when you go and fetch the products, I have intentionally made some delay. You see this? Each API is taking like 500 milliseconds, like less than 1 second, right? But it is still having a delay, right? So in case any API gets delayed, there should be some spinner coming up so user will know what's going on. So let's say if I go inside this, see it is taking some time, so until it comes there is a spinner that you can see. Let me open up this. You see this? It's a spinner coming up and going now. So that is what we are going to see, how we will implement spinner. Not only that, so from any page to the product page, when you land, after the data comes only it goes to this route that is called resolver. We will resolve certain data on fly when the route gets activated. All right, so that's the demo part. Now let's get into the coding. Now if you want to look at the specific coding, it is in this place. All right, here if you come to episode 15, you will see the code that we are going to see in this video. All right, it will also be merged into main branch, so if you can always take the main branch to get the latest code. Okay, so this is the code, and if you look at this under resolvers folder, there is something called product resolver. It is pretty simple. This resolver, in order to use the resolver according to the latest Angular 16 and above, all what you have to do is you have to use resolve function. Okay, so that's the right way of using it. It's coming from Angular router. So we will create a variable and we'll export that function. So basically it's a function that implements resolve function, and the return data of this resolve function is product module. If you're returning string or boolean or anything that you want, a different model, that will go here. Okay, don't put any, always try to return the correct data type. So in our case we are going to return a product module. That's why the product module is the return type. Now it accepts two parameters, the activated route snapshot and router state snapshot. Based on our requirement we can use any of these things. If you don't use, it's okay. Now all what you're doing is we are using the existing product service to call a get product endpoint where we pass the product ID, right? So now if you look at the demo, when we are here and when we try to go and take a particular product, you see this, there's an ID, this is called product ID. So all I'm doing is I'm using this route to fetch the product ID from the route, converting it to a number that's called plus symbol, and passing this to this function. And this function, it's by default returns an observable of product model. Okay, so it is internally returning an observable of a product model. So this function is returning an observable of product model, which is in turn satisfies the return type of this resolve function. So very simple, this resolve function is calling this endpoint and returning the product model. Where do we use this? So if you go to product module, let's go to product module, and the place where we need it is product details. So if you go to product details, here is what we needed. So in order to get the details here itself, what we are doing is go to the routing module where the details are required. So when someone is navigating to details slash an ID, right, it activates this component. But what we are saying is we are using resolve, and then we are passing a variable of type this. So when you open the parenthesis and put a variable name, this is a variable name. In this variable name we are assigning the product resolver function. What it will do is this resolver function will be invoked. It will return the product model that will be assigned to this variable. So this variable is of this type. Okay, so before this component is activated, the moment Angular sees this, it will call this function it will inject everything. It will wait for the observable to finish the call, then it assigns the data, only then it goes inside this. The moment it goes inside this, how do you fetch the data that was passed? So it's pretty simple. Again, we use the route, activated route. We inject this activated route into the constructor. We use this route.data.subscribe. We subscribe to the data part because the one which is coming is the data part. We subscribe to the data part and we know exactly what is the type that is coming. So we assign it to the product. Product is again an existing variable of type model, product model. So very first time when it comes to this place, right, we don't even need to invoke get product. Instead, directly the data is assigned, and the moment the data is assigned, everything is loaded here properly. Okay, so that's the reason for the resolve function to use. Resolve is to prefetch the data before the route is getting activated, so that you can avoid delay or any errors in the component, or just showing the empty blank component, right? So that's why we use resolve. Now the second part is the spinner. Spinner is pretty easy. Again, we have seen this spinner stuff earlier. So there is go to service. There are two things. One is spinner service, one is spinner interceptor service. Let's go to spinner service. What you have to understand here is it's just a service. We are saying it's injectable. Anything that becomes an injectable becomes a, like, you can inject it in any place, like services, component, anywhere. Okay. Now this is something called a RxJS function called behavioral subject. So we assign a variable with a default value of type number and then make this as a observable. So the moment we make this as observable, okay, the spinner counter becomes an observable of, if you hover it, it will tell you it's an observable of number. Okay, so what we are doing is we have two functions and we are just using this counter dot next. We will increment the spinner value. We increment the spinner value, we decrement the spinner value. From where are we doing this? Let's go to the interceptor. So the concept is it's like a gatekeeper. So this interceptor is hooked up in the main app routing module. I'll show you in a moment. So what it is doing is every call that goes out. So if you see this, it implements the HTTP interceptor. So it has a method like this. Every time it invokes, it means a call went outside. We will show the spinner, which means we are incrementing the counter. And then when it comes back, it will go through the spinner, this interceptor. Anything that goes from the interceptor has to come inside. When it receives the data, which is the finalize method, we decrement the counter. So one call goes, we increment. When it comes back, we decrement. 10 call goes, the counter will be 10. As and when the requests keep coming out, the counter will decrement and it will become 0. Now after this, it's very simple. You have all what you have to do is, so after this it's very simple. All what you have to do is go to this app component and just inject the spinner service. After you inject the spinner service, we go to this HTML and we place this piece of code. Okay, so spinner service is a public service, so you can use that method here. Dot spinner counter. Spinner counter is again an observable. Anything that is observable, either you can subscribe and wait for the value, or you can also say async. Asynchronously it will get resolved. So what it is doing is this ngif will become active, meaning it will become true when the counter is more than 0. If the counter is 0, this div will not be shown. If the counter is more than 0, this div will be shown. When this div shows, we just have a simple CSS to animate the spinner. That's it. We don't do anything else fancy here. The spinner is all about injecting the spinner, incrementing the counter, decrementing the counter based on the ongoing API calls and incoming calls, right? And like I said, this interceptor, you need to put it in the app module here. You see this? You need to go to the provider and put this interceptor. The moment you put interceptor here, that's when the call is being tracked. If you miss to provide in the provider of the app module, your interceptor will never get injected and you will not see anything happening. So it's a simple mistake that can happen. So make sure you follow all of this code, and this complete code is in the GitHub repository. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up, share this with your friends, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more tech tutorials. And don't forget to hit the bell icon to get notified when we post new videos. If you have any questions or suggestions, leave them in the comments below. Happy coding!